Lisa Martinez walked through the bright hallways of the Brightwater Children's Home, her morning coffee still warm in her hands. The sound of children's laughter filled the air as they prepared for another day of school. She had been running this orphanage on New Geneva Colony for 8 years now, and every morning still brought her the same quiet joy. Miss Lisa, called out 10-year-old Danny Kim, running up to her with a toy starship clutched in his small hands. "Look what I made in workshop class yesterday." Lisa knelt down to examine the carefully crafted model. Danny had lost his parents in a mining accident 2 years ago, but his bright spirit never seemed to dim. "This is wonderful, Danny. You're gonna make a fine engineer someday." The boy beamed with pride before running off to show his creation to his friends. Lisa continued her walk, checking on the different classrooms and activity areas. The orphanage housed 347 children from various human colonies, all of them having lost their families in accidents, natural disasters, or the small conflicts that sometimes flared up in the Outer Rim territories. In the main classroom, teacher Kevin Blake was helping a group of younger children with their reading. 8-year-old Sophie Grant sat in the corner, quietly writing in her notebook. She collected stories from all the different worlds the children came from, always asking the older kids to tell her about their home planets. "What are you writing today, Sophie?" Lisa asked, sitting down beside the girl. "A story about a planet where it rains flowers instead of water," Sophie replied without looking up from her notebook. "Danny told me about a world like that where his cousin used to live." Lisa smiled and patted the girl's shoulder before moving on. In the medical wing, Nurse Patricia Young was taking care of a boy who had scraped his knee during morning play time. The facility was well equipped with everything the children needed: classrooms, a library, recreational areas, gardens where they could play, and even a small workshop where the older children could learn practical skills. The New Geneva colony itself was a peaceful place, far from any major shipping routes or military installations. The colonists mostly worked in agriculture or small manufacturing, living quiet lives under the distant protection of the United Earth Fleet. It was exactly the kind of place where children could grow up safe and happy, away from the troubles that sometimes plagued the more important worlds. Lisa finished her morning rounds and returned to her office to handle the administrative work. Today she had to approve supplies for the upcoming Harvest Festival, review adoption applications from 3 different families, and coordinate with the colony school board about advanced placement for some of their older children who showed exceptional academic promise. She was just reviewing Danny Kim's test scores when her assistant knocked on the door. "Director Martinez, there's an urgent communication from Colony Defense Control." Lisa frowned. Colony Defense rarely contacted the orphanage directly. "Put it through." The voice on the comm system was tense and frightened. "All civilian facilities. This is Colony Defense. We have unknown ships approaching the system. Large military vessels of unknown origin. All citizens should seek immediate shelter and await further instructions." Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. Military vessels rarely came to New Geneva and never unannounced. She activated the facility's emergency procedures, something they had practiced but never needed to use. The staff quickly moved to gather all the children into the reinforced common areas, away from windows and outer walls. "It's probably just a routine patrol that forgot to file proper approach papers," she told Patricia and Kevin, trying to keep her voice calm. But deep down, she felt something was very wrong. The children sensed the tension in the adults around them, but the staff worked hard to keep them calm. Kevin started a group singing session while Patricia distributed snacks. Lisa coordinated with her security chief to ensure all exterior doors were locked and monitored. Through the reinforced windows, Lisa could see points of light in the sky that shouldn't be there. Ships in high orbit, too many of them to be a routine patrol. Her hands trembled as she tried to contact colony headquarters for more information, but the communication channels were jammed with emergency traffic. In orbit above New Geneva, War Prime, Zeltak stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the tactical display. The human colony below was small and insignificant, but intelligence reports suggested otherwise. According to his information, the facility they were targeting was a training ground for human military cadets, disguised as a children's home. "Inziu," War Prime had been expanding Korthak territory for 3 years, pushing into sectors that had previously been neutral or lightly defended. Humans were proving to be obstacles to his people's rightful expansion, and he had decided that examples needed to be made. "All ships prepare for orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Target the military training facility as planned." His tactical officer, a younger Korthak warrior eager to prove himself, confirmed the target lock. "War Prime, sensors show the facility. Contains 399 life signs. Shall we offer terms for surrender?" "No," Zelthak replied coldly. "These humans train their warriors from childhood. They understand only strength. We will show them the cost of opposing Korthak expansion." Back on the planet's surface, Lisa was holding Sophie Grant's hand when the first energy beams lanced down from space. The reinforced walls of the orphanage offered no protection against weapons designed to destroy military installations. The building shook violently as the first blast hit the eastern wing. Lisa grabbed Sophie and ran toward the emergency shelter. But there was no time. The second bombardment hit the main building directly, and the third struck the western wing where most of the children were gathered. The bombs were precise and devastating, designed to leave nothing standing. Danny Kim never got to become the engineer he dreamed of being. Sophie Grant's stories would never be finished. The 345 other children, along with the 52 staff members who had dedicated their lives to caring for them, died in less than 10 minutes of sustained orbital bombardment. When the attack was over, nothing remained of the Brightwater Children's Home except burning rubble and ash. The peaceful gardens where children had played were now craters. The workshops where they had learned and created were gone. The bright hallways where laughter had echoed every morning were silent forever. War Prime Zelthak recorded his victory report for transmission to Korthak High Command. Successful elimination of human military training facility on New Geneva, colony. No survivors detected. Recommend similar actions against other human installations to discourage further expansion into Korthak territory. The news would reach Earth in a matter of hours, and when it did, humanity would learn exactly what the Korthak had done to 347 innocent children who had already lost everything once before. The emergency communication reached Luna Station at 1427 Earth Standard Time. Admiral Lucas Stone was reviewing fleet deployment reports when his aide, Captain Amy Rogers, burst into his office without knocking. Her face was pale, and her hands shook as she handed him a data pad. "Sir, urgent priority message from New Geneva Colony. There's been an attack." Stone took the pad and began reading. His expression grew darker with each line. "An orphanage. 347 children. No survivors." He set the pad down with careful control, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of his desk. "Confirm this information," he said quietly. "Get me every detail, every scan, every piece of data from the colony, and get me a direct line to President Carter." Amy nodded and rushed out. Stone stood and walked to his office window, looking out at Earth hanging in space below. In 32 years of military service, he had seen battles, casualties, and the harsh realities of interstellar conflict. But this was different. This was deliberate murder of children, who posed no threat to anyone. On Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with the Agricultural Council when her security chief interrupted. The news from New Geneva hit her like a physical blow. She dismissed the council immediately and called for an emergency session of the United Earth Government. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the assembled representatives 3 hours later, "we have received confirmation of an unprovoked attack on the New Geneva colony. The Korthak hegemony has destroyed an orphanage containing 347 children and 52 adult staff members. There were no survivors." The chamber erupted in shocked voices and angry shouts. Representatives from colonies across human space demanded immediate action. The delegate from Mars stood up, his voice cutting through the noise. "Madam President, Mars Defense Corps places all our ships and personnel at Earth's disposal. These aliens have committed an act of barbarism that cannot be answered with diplomacy." Similar declarations followed from Luna, Titan, the outer colonies, and even the normally peaceful agricultural worlds. Human space had not seen such unity in decades. Old disputes and political differences were forgotten in the face of this atrocity. Dr. Rachel Kim was in her laboratory on Europa when she received the news. Her research into military tactics and strategy had always been theoretical until now. When she learned that her nephew Danny had been among the children killed, her grief transformed into cold determination. She immediately contacted Earth Fleet Command and offered her services for what everyone now understood was coming. Captain Jake Morrison was conducting routine patrols near the Centauri system when his orders changed. The captain of the battleship, UES Retribution, had served in 3 previous conflicts, but he had never received orders like these. Find and eliminate all Korthak forces responsible for the attack. No prisoners. No mercy. News of the massacre spread through human space faster than official communications. Colonists who had never owned weapons began purchasing them. Retired military personnel reported for active duty. Shipyards that had been running skeleton crews suddenly found themselves overwhelmed with volunteers. Commander Sarah Webb was training new pilots at the Jupiter Naval Academy when she was recalled to active combat duty. Her expertise in stealth, warfare, and deep space tactics would be needed for what the military planners were already calling Operation Righteous Fury. The Korthak had made a critical error in their intelligence gathering. War Prime Zeltak had assumed that destroying what they believed was a military target would frighten human colonies into submission. Instead, they had awakened something that the galaxy had not seen from humanity before. Unified, implacable rage. At the Luna Naval Shipyards, Admiral Stone met with his senior commanders to plan humanity's response. The room was filled with officers who had spent their careers maintaining peace and protecting trade routes. Now they were being asked to wage a war of extermination. The President has authorized unlimited military action against all Korthak forces, Stone announced. Our mission is simple. Find every ship, every installation, and every Korthak military unit that participated in or supported the attack on New Geneva. Then eliminate them completely. Major Lisa Hayes, commander of the Solar Marine Corps Assault Division, studied the tactical displays showing Korthak territory. Sir, that's a significant area of space. Intelligence suggests the Korthak military numbers in the hundreds of thousands. Stone's expression was granite hard. Then we'll need to build a bigger fleet. Within 48 hours of the New Geneva attack, Earth had authorized the largest military buildup in human history. Every shipyard in the solar system received contracts for new warships. Weapons manufacturers were given unlimited budgets. The normally strict regulations on military technology development were suspended. Commander Nick Taylor received a different kind of assignment. His Black Operations Unit was tasked with infiltrating Korthak space to gather intelligence on their military structure, ship movements, and defensive capabilities. The information they gathered would guide the systematic destruction of the Korthak war machine. Captain Diana Ross was given command of a new heavy cruiser squadron specifically designed for long-range operations in enemy territory. Her ships would carry enough firepower to destroy entire Korthak battle groups and enough supplies to operate independently for months. The response from human corporations was immediate and overwhelming. Mining companies offered raw materials at cost. Technology firms shared their most advanced research. Even civilian transport companies volunteered their ships to carry supplies to military staging areas. On Mars, Colonel Mike Turner was reorganizing the planetary defense forces into rapid deployment units capable of defending human colonies while simultaneously preparing for offensive operations. Every human world was becoming a military base. The psychological impact on human space was profound. For decades, humans had seen themselves as explorers, traders, and colonists. The attack on New Geneva had shown them something darker about the galaxy they lived in. If aliens were willing to murder human children, then humanity needed to be prepared to defend itself with absolute ruthlessness. Ambassador Robert Cole was recalled from the neutral zone, where he had been conducting trade negotiations. His new assignment was to deliver humanity's response to any alien species that requested mediation or negotiation regarding the coming conflict. The message was simple and clear. Humanity was not interested in negotiation. The Korthak had chosen to make war on human children. Now they would face the consequences of that choice. Intelligence reports began flowing in from deep space monitoring stations. Korthak forces were continuing their expansion, apparently unaware that they had fundamentally changed the nature of their conflict with humanity. War Prime Zelthak was treating the New Geneva attack as a minor tactical victory, not recognizing it as the greatest strategic error in Korthak history. President Carter addressed the people of Earth and all human colonies in a special broadcast 2 weeks after the attack. Her words were measured but carried an undertone of absolute determination that sent a clear message across human space. "We did not seek this conflict," she said, looking directly into the camera. "We are a peaceful people who want nothing more than to build good lives for our families and our children. But the Korthak hegemony has chosen to make war on our children. They have murdered innocents who posed no threat to anyone. This act will not stand and it will not be forgotten. Humanity will respond, and our response will be final." The declaration was broadcast throughout the galaxy. Allied species watched, with concern as humanity mobilized for war. Neutral species began reconsidering their positions. And in Korthak space, a few military analysts began to worry that their leadership had made a terrible mistake. 3 weeks after the massacre at New Geneva, humanity struck back with surgical precision. Commander Nick Taylor and his Black Operations team had spent those weeks gathering intelligence deep in Korthak space, identifying targets and mapping enemy positions. Now it was time to put that information to use. The first target was a Korthak supply depot in the Tertian system, a heavily fortified station that provided fuel and weapons to the battle groups patrolling the border regions. According to intercepted communications, ships from this depot had participated in the New Geneva attack. Captain Jake Morrison's battle group dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Tertian system with perfect timing. The UES Retribution led a formation of 12 warships, all equipped with the latest weapons and shielding technology. The Korthak defenders never saw them coming. "All ships, weapons free," Morrison ordered. "Remember what they did to our children." The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. The Korthak defensive platforms managed to get their shields up and return fire. But human weapons had been upgraded specifically for this campaign. New plasma cannons burned through Korthak armor like paper. Improved missile systems overwhelmed their point defenses. When it was over, the supply depot was an expanding cloud of debris. Every Korthak ship in the system had been destroyed. The station's garrison of 3,000 Korthak warriors was gone. Human casualties, 0. Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the destruction on his tactical displays. There was no satisfaction. In the victory, only cold determination. This was just the beginning. War Prime Zelthak received the report of the Tertian attack while reviewing plans for further expansion into human territory. The loss of an entire supply depot was significant, but he assumed it was simply human forces defending their border. He ordered increased patrols and continued with his strategic planning. He would not remain ignorant for long. Over the next week, 5 more Korthak installations went silent. Each attack followed the same pattern. Humans appeared without warning, destroyed everything in sight, and vanished back into space. No demands for surrender, no attempts at communication, just systematic destruction. Dr. Rachel Kim had spent the weeks after her nephew's death, developing new tactical approaches for the campaign. Her strategies focused on psychological warfare, as much as military destruction. Make the enemy understand that no Korthak position was safe, that every attack would bring inevitable retaliation. "We're not just fighting a war," she explained to the planning committee at Luna Station. "We're hunting them. Every Korthak who participated in the New Geneva attack, everyone who supported it, everyone who celebrated it. They all die, Commander." Sarah Webb led the implementation of these new tactics. Her stealth squadrons used experimental cloaking technology to penetrate deep into Korthak space. They would appear from nowhere, destroy their targets, and disappear before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Her first mission took her to the Korthak fuel refinery at Valdris Prime. The facility processed fuel for over 40 Korthak battle groups, making it a critical target. Webb's squadron materialized from stealth just outside the facility's defensive perimeter. The attack was over in minutes. Precision strikes destroyed the main processing plants, storage tanks, and defensive systems. The explosion when the main fuel reserves ignited could be seen from space. Another critical piece of Korthak infrastructure was gone. The Korthak began calling these attacks ghost strikes because their sensors could never detect the approaching human ships. Fear started to spread through the Korthak military as commanders realized that anywhere in their territory could become a target without warning. Major Lisa Hayes commanded the ground assault teams that followed up the space attacks. When human intelligence identified a Korthak command center on Nexus 7 that had coordinated the New Geneva bombardment, her Marines were ready. The assault was swift and brutal. Human dropships landed under cover of orbital bombardment, discharging Marines equipped with the latest combat technology. The Korthak defenders fought hard, but human soldiers had trained for this specific mission with absolute dedication. Hayes personally led the assault on the command bunker where the attack orders had originated. The Korthak officers inside tried to surrender, offering information in exchange for their lives. Hayes looked at them through her helmet's visor and thought about Danny Kim and Sophie Grant and all the other children who would never grow up. "No prisoners," she said simply, and her Marines finished the job. Colonel Mike Turner's rapid response forces protected human colonies while simultaneously launching counterattacks against any Korthak forces that approached human space. His strategy was simple. Any Korthak ship that came within 50 light-years of a human world would be destroyed immediately. Turner's forces got their first test when a Korthak reconnaissance squadron approached the outer colonies. The aliens were probably just gathering intelligence, but Turner's orders were clear. His squadrons intercepted the Korthak ships and eliminated them completely. The message was clear. Human space was now a death zone for any Korthak forces. Captain Diana Ross commanded the heavy cruiser squadrons that struck at major Korthak installations. Her ships carried enough firepower to level entire military bases and enough defensive systems to fight their way out of any trap. Her first major target was the Korthak Naval Academy on Threnor II. The academy trained young Korthak warriors in space combat and military tactics. It was also where War Prime Zelthak had been educated 20 years earlier. Ross's squadrons arrived during graduation ceremonies, when the academy was filled with cadets and instructors. The bombardment was thorough and complete. Every building was destroyed, every ship in the academy fleet was vaporized, and every person on the base was killed. The next generation of Korthak military leaders died before they could graduate. Ross watched the destruction from her command bridge and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. These weren't children playing in an orphanage. These were future warriors who would grow up to attack human colonies if given the chance. The psychological impact on the Korthak military began to show after a month of sustained attacks. Entire fleets started avoiding sectors where human ships might be operating. Supply convoys required massive escorts just to move between safe areas. Korthak expansion stopped completely as forces were recalled to defend their own territory. War Prime Zelthak finally began to understand what he had unleashed when his intelligence officers brought him updated casualty reports. In 6 weeks, humanity had destroyed over 200 Korthak installations, eliminated 50,000 trained warriors, and crippled the Korthak war economy. "How are they moving so many ships so quickly?" he demanded. Our intelligence said human military forces were limited and defensive in nature. His aide, a veteran officer who had been urging caution, finally spoke up. "War Prime, our intelligence was wrong. We attacked a facility full of their young ones. Their entire species has mobilized for war." Zelthak studied the tactical displays showing human fleet movements. Red markers indicated human attacks growing more numerous each day. The pattern was clear. Humanity was systematically dismantling every aspect of Korthak military power. "Send a message to the human leadership," he ordered. "We will negotiate terms for ending this conflict." Ambassador Robert Cole received the Korthak message while coordinating with neutral species who wanted to mediate the conflict. His response was delivered through the same channels, broadcast across the galaxy so every species could hear humanity's position. The Korthak hegemony murdered 347 human children in an unprovoked attack on a civilian facility. Cole said, "There will be no negotiations. There will be no ceasefire. There will be no mercy. Every Korthak responsible for this atrocity will be eliminated, along with every Korthak who supported it. This is not a war. This is justice." The declaration sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Several species had seen human diplomats as reasonable and peaceful. Now they were seeing something entirely different, a species that would wage war of extermination to protect its children. In Korthak space, the remaining military commanders began to panic. Their forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to appear from nowhere and strike with overwhelming force. Traditional defensive strategies were useless against human tactics. War Prime Zelthak stared at the strategic displays in his command center, watching red indicators multiply across Korthak territory. Each marker represented another installation destroyed, another fleet eliminated, another step toward the complete destruction of his people's military power. He was beginning to realize that attacking the New Geneva Orphanage hadn't been a tactical victory. It had been the greatest mistake in Korthak history, and now his entire species would pay the price. 6 months after New Geneva, humanity's war machine operated with terrifying efficiency. The combined human fleet had grown to over 2,000 ships, supported by mobile manufacturing vessels that could produce weapons and ammunition while moving between targets. Admiral Lucas Stone coordinated the largest naval operation in human history from his flagship, the UES Vengeance. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, built specifically for this campaign. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Its shields could withstand sustained bombardment from hundreds of enemy ships, and its manufacturing facilities could produce replacement fighters and missiles during battle. Stone had named it personally, and the name carried the weight of 347 murdered children. Major Lisa Hayes had perfected ground assault tactics during months of combat against Korthak installations. Her Marines had developed new strategies specifically for fighting the heavily armored Korthak warriors. Rapid deployment from orbit, overwhelming firepower concentrated on key targets, and complete elimination of all enemy forces. Her latest mission took her to the Korthak Military Command Center on Fortress World Beta 7. The installation commanded defensive operations for an entire sector and housed over 10,000 Korthak military personnel. Intelligence indicated that officers stationed there had helped plan the New Geneva attack. The assault began with orbital bombardment that lasted for 3 hours. Hayes's ships systematically destroyed every defensive position, every communication array, and every escape route from the fortress. When her Marines finally landed, they found Korthak survivors hiding in the deepest bunkers. "Surrender terms?" asked her lieutenant as they prepared to breach the final bunker complex. Hayes thought about the children who had died while playing in peaceful gardens. No terms, no survivors. The final assault took 6 hours. When it was over, Fortress World, Beta 7 was silent and empty. Every Korthak on the planet was dead. Hayes uploaded her mission report and prepared for the next target on her list. Captain Diana Ross led the heavy assault squadrons that targeted major Korthak fleet concentrations. Her latest mission brought her to the Korthak naval base at Nexus Prime, where over 300 enemy warships were stationed. The base was heavily defended and considered impregnable by Korthak military planners. Ross arrived with a fleet of 60 human warships, each one equipped with weapons that had been continuously improved throughout the campaign. The battle began when her ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect attack formation. The Korthak fleet fought with desperate courage, but human technology had advanced beyond their ability to match. New plasma weapons burned through Korthak armor like it didn't exist. Improved shield generators absorbed enemy fire while human weapons tore enemy ships apart. The battle lasted for 8 hours. When it ended, 300 Korthak warships had been reduced to drifting wreckage. The naval base was a crater visible from orbit. Ross had lost 12 ships and 300 crew members, but the largest Korthak fleet in the sector had been completely eliminated. She recorded her victory message for transmission to Admiral Stone. "Nexus Prime is secure. No enemy survivors. Moving to next target." The psychological impact on remaining Korthak forces was becoming critical. Entire fleets surrendered rather than face human battle groups, but surrender offered no protection. Humanity's policy had been made clear from the beginning. Every Korthak involved in the New Geneva attack would die, regardless of circumstances. Commander Sarah Webb intercepted one such surrender attempt near the Korthak mining world of Zerion 4. The local fleet commander transmitted a message offering to lay down arms and provide information about other Korthak positions. Webb's response was transmitted on all frequencies so every Korthak in the system could hear it. "You murdered our children. Your surrender is not accepted." Her stealth squadrons eliminated the surrendering fleet in less than an hour. The mining facility was destroyed along with its garrison. The mineral extraction equipment was reduced to scrap metal. Another piece of the Korthak war economy disappeared forever. War Prime Zelthak attempted negotiations through every channel available to him. He contacted neutral species, offered tribute and territorial concessions, even suggested joint operations against other threats in the galaxy. Every attempt was met with the same response from humanity: complete elimination of all Korthak military forces, no exceptions, no mercy. Dr. Rachel Kim had expanded her psychological warfare strategies as the campaign progressed. Her latest innovation involved broadcasting recordings of the New Geneva attack on all Korthak communication frequencies, followed by real-time footage of human forces destroying Korthak installations. "We want them to understand exactly why this is happening," she explained to the strategy committee. "Every time they see another base destroyed, another fleet eliminated, they need to remember those 347 children who died for no reason except Korthak ambition." The broadcast had their intended effect. Korthak military morale collapsed as soldiers realized they were fighting an enemy that would never stop, never negotiate, and never show mercy. Desertions increased dramatically as individual Korthak abandoned their posts rather than face human assault teams. Colonel Mike Turner's forces had evolved from defensive operations to active hunter-killer missions deep in Korthak space. His squadrons moved constantly, never staying in one place long enough for enemy forces to organize counterattacks. They would strike at supply convoys, communication relays, and isolated outposts before disappearing back into the void. Turner's latest success was the destruction of the Korthak Intelligence Center on Monitoring Station Alpha 12. The facility had been responsible for gathering information about human colony defenses, information that had been used to select New Geneva as a target. The assault was swift and brutal. Turner's ships appeared without warning, eliminated the station's defenses, and deployed assault teams that killed every Korthak on board. Before leaving, they downloaded all the intelligence files to learn about other Korthak operations. Turner reviewed the captured data while his ships moved to their next target. The files contained detailed plans for attacks on human colonies, including several orphanages and schools that the Korthak had identified as military training facilities. The discovery only strengthened his resolve to continue the campaign until every threat was eliminated. Admiral Stone received regular reports from all his commanders, tracking the systematic destruction of Korthak military power. His strategic displays showed the steady reduction of red markers indicating enemy positions. Each marker that disappeared represented another step toward final victory. "Status report," he requested during his daily briefing with his senior staff. Captain Amy Rogers consulted her datapad. "Korthak military strength is down 78% from pre-war levels. Their fleet is reduced to scattered squadrons that avoid contact with our forces. Industrial capacity is down 85%. Intelligence estimates they can no longer sustain coordinated military operations." Stone nodded grimly. "And civilian populations?" "We've maintained strict targeting protocols," Rogers replied. "Only military installations, personnel, and supporting infrastructure. Civilian casualties are minimal, but their economy is collapsing due to loss of military contracts and protection." The distinction was important to Stone. Humanity was not waging war against Korthak civilians, only against those who had participated in or supported the attack on children. But the line between military and civilian infrastructure was often thin in a militaristic society, like the Korthak hegemony. War Prime Zelthak made his final attempt at negotiation by contacting President Carter directly through diplomatic channels. His message was desperate and pleading, offering everything from total disarmament to exile from Korthak territory. President Carter's response was delivered publicly, broadcast across human space and transmitted to every major government in the galaxy. Her words were calm and measured, but carried the absolute finality of a death sentence. "The Korthak hegemony chose to make war on our children," she said, looking directly into the camera. "They targeted a facility that posed no military threat, killing 347 innocent children who had already lost their families once before. There will be no negotiation. There will be no compromise. There will be no mercy. The only acceptable outcome is the complete elimination of the Korthak military and the removal of their ability to threaten human children ever again." The message ended with footage from New Geneva, the ruins of the orphanage, the small toys, scattered among the debris and the memorial garden where flowers now grew. The contrast between innocent children at play and the deliberate destruction of their lives was stark and powerful. Across the galaxy, other species watched humanity's relentless campaign with growing concern. The humans were demonstrating military capabilities that no one had suspected, combined with a ruthlessness that shocked even hardened warriors. The message was clear. Threatening human children would result in absolute retaliation. In Korthak space, the remaining military commanders began making desperate plans for a final stand at their homeworld. They knew that humanity would eventually come for Korthak Prime itself, and when that happened, the war would end with the complete destruction of their civilization as a military power. The assault on Korthak Prime began at exactly the same time that War Prime Zelthak had ordered the bombardment of New Geneva 1 year earlier. Admiral Lucas Stone had planned the timing deliberately. He wanted the Korthak to understand that this was not conquest or expansion, but justice for murdered children. The combined human fleet assembled at the edge of the Korthak home system was the largest military force in human history. Over 3,000 ships ranging from massive battleships to swift destroyers, all equipped with weapons that had been continuously improved throughout the year-long campaign. Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the tactical displays as his fleet moved into attack formation. Every ship represented humanity's determination to protect its most vulnerable members. Every weapon carried the memory of 347 children who would never grow up. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," he broadcast to the fleet. "1 year ago, the Korthak murdered our children in an unprovoked attack on a civilian facility. Today, we deliver humanity's final answer to that atrocity. Remember New Geneva. Remember our children. Show no mercy." The first phase of the assault targeted the massive orbital defense platforms surrounding Korthak Prime. These weapons could destroy entire fleets if left operational, but human tactics had evolved far beyond simple frontal assault. Commander Sarah Webb's stealth squadrons had spent weeks infiltrating the system, placing explosive charges on key defensive systems. When the main fleet arrived, half the orbital defenses were already crippled by internal explosions. The remaining platforms faced the concentrated firepower of 3,000 human warships. The battle for orbital supremacy lasted 6 hours and ended with complete human victory. Captain Jake Morrison's battle group led the final assault on the last major Korthak fleet. War Prime Zelthak had assembled every surviving ship under his command for a desperate defense of the homeworld. 300 Korthak vessels faced Morrison's force in the largest space battle of the war. The Korthak fought with the courage of warriors defending their home, but human technology and tactics had advanced beyond their ability to match. New plasma weapons that could punch through any armor, shield systems that could absorb incredible punishment, and coordination that allowed human ships to fight as a single massive weapon. Morrison's flagship, the UES Retribution, engaged Zelthak's command ship directly. The two vessels pounded each other with devastating firepower while their fleets battled around them. Morrison thought about Lisa Martinez and all the staff who had died trying to protect their children as his weapons tore through the enemy ship's defenses. When Zelthak's flagship finally exploded, taking the War Prime and his entire command staff with it, the remaining Korthak fleet lost all coordination. Individual ships tried to escape or surrender, but human forces had orders to leave no survivors. The last major Korthak military force was systematically destroyed. With orbital space secure, General Kate Phillips led the largest planetary assault in human military history. 500,000 Marines landed on Korthak Prime with a single mission: locate and eliminate every member of the Korthak military command structure. The Korthak military had prepared defensive positions across their homeworld, turning cities and military bases into fortresses. But human assault tactics had been perfected during a year of constant combat. Orbital bombardment eliminated fixed defenses, dropships delivered Marines with precision accuracy, and advanced weapons overcame any resistance. Major Lisa Hayes led the assault on the Korthak High Command bunker, the ultimate target of the entire campaign. Deep underground beneath the capital city, the bunker housed the surviving members of the government and military leadership who had planned and authorized the New Geneva attack. The bunker was designed to withstand nuclear bombardment, but human engineers had developed new weapons specifically for this mission. Plasma charges burned through meters of reinforced armor, creating openings for assault teams equipped with the most advanced combat gear humanity had ever produced. Hayes personally led the final assault team into the bunker's command center. The surviving Korthak leaders were found huddled around their strategic displays, watching helplessly as their civilization's military power was eliminated forever. The Korthak defense minister, who had personally signed the orders for the New Geneva attack, tried to offer surrender terms. He spoke of prisoner exchanges, territorial concessions, and reparations for human losses. Hayes looked at him through her helmet's visor and saw only the face of an alien who had ordered the murder of children. "There are no terms," she said simply, and activated her weapon. The systematic elimination of Korthak military power continued for 3 days. Every military academy, every training facility, every weapons manufacturing plant, and every command center was destroyed. The species would survive, but their ability to wage war was gone forever. Captain Diana Ross led the final mission of the campaign, the destruction of the Korthak military archives. These facilities contained the strategic plans, tactical doctrines, and institutional knowledge that future Korthak leaders might use to rebuild their military. Ross's heavy cruisers bombarded the archive complexes from orbit until nothing remained but fused glass and twisted metal. Thousands of years of Korthak military history disappeared in flames, ensuring that their warrior culture could never again threaten human children. Colonel Mike Turner oversaw the placement of monitoring stations throughout Korthak space. These automated platforms would watch for any attempt to rebuild military capabilities and respond with immediate force. The message was clear: Korthak space was now under human protection, and any species that threatened human civilians would face the same fate. Dr. Rachel Kim compiled the final strategic assessment of the campaign for the historical record. Her report documented the complete elimination of Korthak military power, their fleet destroyed, their installations eliminated, their command structure dead, and their ability to coordinate large-scale operations gone forever. The Korthak hegemony chose to make war on human children, she wrote in her conclusion. Humanity responded with absolute force and achieved absolute victory. The enemy's military capabilities have been eliminated permanently. Their civilian population survives but scattered and powerless. This outcome serves as a warning to any species that might consider targeting human non-combatants. Ambassador Robert Cole delivered humanity's final statement to the galactic community from the ruins of the Korthak High Command bunker. His words were broadcast across known space, ensuring that every civilization would understand the consequences of threatening human children. The Korthak hegemony murdered 347 innocent children in an unprovoked attack on a civilian facility, he said, standing amid the destruction. Today, their military power has been eliminated forever. Their fleets are destroyed. Their command structure is dead, and their ability to threaten anyone is gone. Let this be known throughout the galaxy. Humanity protects its own, and those who harm our children will find no mercy, no quarter, and no survivors among our enemies. The war was over. In exactly 1 year, humanity had transformed from a peaceful confederation of colonies into the most feared military power in the galaxy. The Korthak military had been completely eliminated, their territorial empire dissolved, and their surviving civilians scattered to refugee camps on distant worlds. Admiral Stone stood in the memorial garden that had been built where the New Geneva Orphanage once stood. 347 white flowers bloomed in the peaceful setting, each one representing a child whose death had changed the course of galactic history. President Helen Carter joined him for the dedication ceremony, along with representatives from every human world. The memorial was simple and beautiful, a place where children from the rebuilt colony could play safely under the protection of the permanent naval base that now orbited the planet. "They tried to frighten us by murdering our children," Carter said during her dedication speech. "Instead, they awakened something in humanity that they could never have imagined. We are not conquerors or aggressors, but we will not tolerate the targeting of innocents. This memorial stands as a promise. Human children will be protected no matter the cost." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for the victims of New Geneva. Around the galaxy, other species observed the same moment of silence, remembering the lesson that humanity had taught through overwhelming force. Some lines should never be crossed. In the months that followed, human space enjoyed unprecedented peace. No alien species attempted to challenge human colonies or threaten human civilians. The systematic destruction of the Korthak military had sent a message that resonated throughout the galaxy. Humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or tactics, but their absolute refusal to accept the targeting of their children. The phrase "they bombed an Earth orphanage" became synonymous across alien civilizations with the concept of crossing an unforgivable line. It served as both warning and promise. Threaten human children and face the complete annihilation of your military power. Years later, when other species asked about the Korthak War, human historians would always begin with the same words. "They chose to make war on our children. We chose to end their ability to make war on anyone ever again."